And we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last branch of Laurels interview. I'm Ashaxi from Untier, and we are wrapping up this interview series with a big bang with Her Majesty Helene d'Anjou. I hope I said that sort of correctly. Who was Laurel just before she stepped up as queen this last time. So newly minted and at a really interesting time in the life of the SCA. So we usually start these interviews off by asking what your SCA origin story is. How did you find the SCA and what made you fall in love with it?
I have a fairly typical origin story. I kind of consider like when you go to your first event versus when you're really kind of in for good. I went to my first event, I think it was 2001 maybe. I was dating Christian at the time, and he told me about this thing that his older cousins had been doing, and he checked out a couple times. So we went to a couple of events. I think my first one was Clinton War, which is a heck of an event to start with. It was one of the big years. I believe Avalok was king that year. There was a bajillion people, and I was woefully unprepared for the temperatures, the hot and the cold, and it was miserable. But I had some fun. There was some camaraderie and all that jazz. We kind of piddled around like that for a couple of years, doing Clintons, maybe some local Baronesses wars. I think I went to a crown that was down in Vancouver, Washington, which was a heck of a long drive for me at that time. Yeah, we just kind of piddled around for a little bit. And then one year he went to Penzic and had a massive adventure and really got hooked into the SCA. And then I knew Melissa Kendall from Clinton because she's quite the figure. And she had set me up to be lady in waiting to Amanda while she was princess with Ulf. And I didn't really know what that meant, but I signed up, and then I went to every event that she went to, and they went everywhere. We went to the West, like we went everywhere. We went up to Kitimat, which is 8 hours north and then 8 hours left. And I just got hooked. I loved doing that. Being a lady in waiting was really my jam. Just kind of watching, observing, staying out of anything official, but being ready to grab a cup or hand a notebook. And it just seemed, I got to see what was going on. And then I got to meet a bajillion people. I met so many people. I don't know if you've ever partied with Ulf, but man, you sure go everywhere, literally. So I met a million people, and they were all amazing. And that was when I was really in. Like, I'd been to events before, but that's when I was in. So I met people that inspired me to make my own stuff and do my own things and kind of do something other than wait in camp while Christian fought in war. So that's kind of my origin.
Which can be really boring.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun hanging around day drinking when war is going on, but really finding something that you love to do and that you would do even if your friends didn't go. I went to lots of events by myself all over the place because I just loved it. So.
Awesome. Were you an artist before you found the SCA?
That's kind of hard to say. My dad was an artist. He went to art school. So he always kind of encouraged us to be creative. But I never really dedicated myself to anything. I had run a sewing machine before because he modernly also kind of used sewing machines. So I had one and I knew how to use it. And I used paints, but I wasn't very good at it. I'm not very good at drawing. And I'm kind of one of those gifted kids. So if I'm not naturally good at it, I just kind of carried on to whatever I was naturally good at.
I understand that. I have at least one of those that I'm raising, and I was one of those. Yeah. And until I found the SCA and was so generously rewarded for sticking with stuff. and working on my skills. So how did that manifest for you? What did you start to work on that you started to get recognized for, and how did you get encouraged to kind of dive deep into a skill?
So I got the first kind of attention I got for making something. I went to a persona development class, and persona has never really been super big to me. I'm not into like role playing anything. I just make a persona, pick a name, sure. And I went to a class and the lady said, "You would look good in 12th century." And I was like, okay, I guess I'm 12th century. And then I started kind of picking some areas and stuff. And I got into researching biblios, early internet. So when there was all kinds of misinformation all over this stuff, I read some pretty ridiculous stuff. But I kind of went into research mode, and when I figured out my justification for side lacing, I felt so smart. I was like, yeah, this has got the right picture and it looks right. And I can see this in a drawing, and there's no way you can lace up your own dress if it laces up the back. So I made a research blio, and I put a fair amount of research into it. And I was all proud of it. Unfortunately, I didn't pre-wash the Melton, so it made it through one wash. I lasted a long time before I washed it, but it's about the size of a toddler's dress now.
Oh man.
But Alicia the Willful, a Laurel up in Thierry, took me aside, saw that I had put work into it, and said, "Tell me about this. What did you learn? What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh, a Laurel thought I did something really cool." And it was just the neatest feeling. And that was kind of the beginning of, oh, I can do stuff and it's really cool. And other people think it's cool too. So that was my first kind of making stuff. And I spent a lot of time making garb, actually, with different patterns. I ended up being head of retinue for Ian and Gwyneth on their second principality reign. And they are, of course, 14th century to the max. So I didn't have to, but I decided to make some stuff. So she taught me a lot about kind of patterning those types of gowns and so forth. So I started doing a little bit of embroidery, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It wasn't until that we were prince and princess, we had a bit of I'd say a misunderstanding that led to a fallout with the person who stepped up as our scribe. And we just kind of parted ways. And I said, "You know what? That's fine. My dad's an artist. I can get him to do some line work. And I did calligraphy way back when I was a kid, so I can do this."
And be princess. It's fine.
We were pretty lucky at the time. There had been a lot of reigns that had given out a lot of awards. So there was not a glut of people to offer awards to. Everybody really had a lot of stuff. So what I decided to do, in my wisdom, was make an original for every award we gave out. So that was about an original for every weekend. That was a lot of work. But I went from, my dad drew some, he kind of did all the research and we planned it all out. And I did the calligraphy. And then I was like, I could draw this part. And I ended up just drawing them and making them. So we did probably about 15 awards, I guess, throughout that reign. One of them I didn't do. My lovely friend, Marie Demont, did one. But then I did all of the rest of them. And so that was a big learning curve, but it was a lot of fun. And what happened was I was bad at it. My first scroll was awful. It was like lines didn't meet. I couldn't, and I still can't really to this day paint with gouache. I'm not very good with gouache at all. And when I was at the event, I wrote the name in the wrong place. I had to scrape it off. And then I wrote it in the wrong place again, and I had to scrape it off. Like it was a mess.
A little heartbreaking.
Yeah. There was what normally would have been a very upsetting, but turned out to be a very fortunate miscommunication between kingdom and principality. It was an award of arms. And they actually awarded her arms at that same event. And I was like, phew, let's put that away and never look at it again. Because that was a hell of a thing. But being not good at something that I had to do anyways was probably the best thing for me as an artist, modernly and medievally. Just not being good at it. I was like, no, I can draw. I'm going to learn how to draw. So I'll start by tracing, and then I'm going to copy this part and trace this part, and then I'm going to do this. And yeah, that was kind of, I think it's probably one of the best things that happened to me was being bad at it.
And that trial by fire where you've got deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline. And so you're just practicing. I mean, I'm imagining you coming home from work and staying up most of every night after you do rain business, practicing scrolls. That's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it was not advisable on a lot of levels. Luckily, Christian has always been very involved in Rains. There's always this kind of idea that she does all the administrative work and he does all the flashing and that, but he's really always been super involved in all of the court stuff. He does a lot of the day-to-day administration. So I was freed up to work on that while he did a lot of the legwork. So.
And you, including Principality Reigns, you are on your 5th reign together. Is that correct?
This one, if you count it as one, is our 4th. So
4th.
1 principality, and then this is the 3rd kingdom reign.
That lasted forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good times. So have you continued to do scrolls for each of your reigns? Is that?
Yeah. I try not to, not because I don't want to, but I really like the opportunity to give other people a chance to do work. And one of the things you really learn when you step up as a royal is that it's 0% about you. It's all about everybody else. So anything I can do to give somebody else an opportunity to make a kingdom scroll is a great opportunity. I jumped in and cheated by doing my own principality because I was the one saying, okay, right? Most people kind of work their way up through charters. They're not sure how to do it. They're not sure how to ask if they can be allowed to do it. I just went and did it. So there were a few I did for each reign. I did one for this reign and I have another one planned. But for the most part, I've just done a couple for each reign. Either it was a project I really wanted to do, or it was somebody that was super important to me, or somebody I thought might get gobsmacked by me making a scroll for them while I was also being crowned. Inevitably, it always ends up being the last 2 weeks before 12th night, which is a stupid time to do art, but
yeah, I got to a point with costuming where I was like, I am not going to go through that hell of having my holidays full of trying to do last minute stuff for 12th night.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to work for Celeste and Kalsha had a business for a while, and there I was again, cramming for 12th night. I was like, I don't want to do this.
I know better. Why am I doing this to myself?
This is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So along the way, you started getting into other forms of art as well. What I noticed going through your work that you were really into natural dyes. And I also noticed you do a lot of hiking. So how does that kind of correlate for you?
So the hiking, again, my dad always took me hiking. So I did a lot of hiking. And it definitely puts you out in places where you have access to a lot of materials that you can use for dyeing. I think my first dyeing experiment, I was with Ian and Gwyneth doing something, and Magdalena came over and said, do you want to try some dyeing? I said, sure, I love trying stuff. you do one dip into indigo and you're hooked, right? It magically turns from green to blue and you're gobsmacked. So she kind of got me piddling about, and every time I try something new, I've got to kind of go down a rabbit hole and play with it for a little while. And she was actually the first one to mention to me that you can dye with a certain type of lichen that I got when I was out. And I gave it a try, and it really worked. It's a lime green. It's really, really bright. And so I was pretty hooked on that. And then I kind of heard that you could do it with other lichens. So I started just experimenting with lichens that I found. And not being a very good scientist, I didn't do any weight of fabric or weight of fiber. And I think I probably mixed up some samples and stuff, but I had some stinky ammonia pots fermenting all over the house for a little while. And I chatted a little bit with Kiva about it. She really kind of pointed me down some more lichen paths. I haven't done a lot recently. I think everyone kind of gets to a realization where you can go too broad in your interests, and it's okay to put those interests aside for a little bit later. So I kind of like narrowed it down. Christian actually was very good for me with that. I was really getting into all kinds of stuff. Like I am all about fibers and the dyeing and stuff. And he said, what if you just focus it to color? You know, you can do some dyeing. Some of the dyeing you can make into pigments and stuff, and just focus on one thing. And color is a pretty broad spectrum, but but it narrows me down a little bit more. So I still have my other things that I want to really get into, but I'll do that in a little bit. I'd rather go deep on a few things than shallow on a bunch of broad things.
Awesome. Well, let's look at some pictures, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with your Principality Reign.
Yeah. Oh, and that's one of my side laced Leos, which I made waiting for a 12th night. And Sir Otar actually helped me sew some of those loops on the side to tie it up late into the night.
Did you do that belt too?
I did not. That was woven for me by Magdalena again. This was actually, that belt was actually a lesson for me, and I'm glad you brought it up. I had asked her if she could weave me a belt. And this was so we had the reign where you win in November and step up in February. And then you don't step down again until August, but it's a fairly short period of time between winning and stepping up. And I asked her if she could weave me a belt, and she said, well, I can't do an ankle one for you, or I can't do a tablet, but I could definitely do an ankle for you. And I said, that's amazing. I would love it. And she gave it to me on the day that we were stepping up for investiture. And we went into that investiture with very much we can do this attitude. And man, were we unprepared, utterly unprepared for that event. We were terrified. We didn't know. We weren't public speakers. We weren't like, I'm not sure if you've ever spoken to Christian, but very early on, he was a very gruff and stern looking guy, mostly out of, kind of fear of speaking in public, but we were not prepared to be up in front of people. And I was terrified. And she came to me before we stepped up and said, I made this for you. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. And then I went off and I put it on, and I never, ever thanked her for it.
Oh, no.
And I think it was like a year later. I was like, you know what? I have never thanked you for that. And I am sorry, because I was just all caught up in me and didn't take the time. That's a really long belt. That's a double wrap. Like it's got to be 6 feet of weaving anyways.
Wow.
And I didn't even thank her. So that was a lesson for me that I learned, and I've never forgotten. I hope.
Yeah, thank yous are super important.
Yeah.
Well, and
reading with Sav was so much fun.
She's great. I just love her.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, I skipped one. Hold on. There we go.
The 12th night. That scroll, I believe that scroll was made by Madeleine. I believe. It's hard to remember. That was a beautiful one. And I didn't get to see it for very long. I just kind of signed it and then we gave it out. Wonderful. That outfit there was made by some ladies down in Everett that I just adore to pieces. They embroidered all these bits and so generous with their work. I love that picture so much. We were offered the opportunity by His Grace Saverick to surprise Otar and tell him to just wait in the middle of his knighting, and then we stepped up as the crown, and then we completed his knighting, and he had no idea it was happening. And it was such a great opportunity because we've known him. I think I've known him since he was 15, and we're godparents of his first, and we just love them so much. And the opportunity to be able to recognize him as a knight was so amazing. And Corey was just, Heldora was just crying and crying, and I just gave her the biggest hug, and I just love that picture so much. That was such a great moment.
It's the sweetest.
It was also hot as hell that day. That was really hot that day. That
And
wool mantle.
He's in wool. Ugh.
Yeah.
That mantle's beautiful.
I love it. I love it. They made, again, this is the ladies down in Everett who just make so much stuff for us. They are so incredibly generous. I can never thank them enough. And I had a vision for these outfits, and they brought it to life and made it even better. And yeah.
Fantastic.
Speaking of outfits, this one, I felt like I was, this was our first rain. Again, we felt woefully unprepared for this. We had obviously rained before, but we were not sure what was going to happen. And Her Excellency Ayla, who is currently Baroness of Adiantum, she stepped up as our garb maker. And somehow, so Adiantum is Eugene.
Right.
We live in British Columbia. So somehow that far away, she took a few measurements and then just coordinated a whole bunch of people doing all kinds of stuff and made our outfits. And I felt like an effigy. Like it's such a cool set of clothing. And I just felt like $1 million. It was just wonderful.
That's fantastic. That's very challenging. That's one of my rules learned the hard way, is that I don't costume at a distance.
Yeah.
I have to be able to do several sets of fittings, and to make stuff that you feel so good in at that distance is that's rock star level. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, and another outfit. Master Charles made this outfit. We asked him to make something to fit in with the Burgundian theme that their Graces Livia and Morgan were doing. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want you to make something really cool." So he did the whole vision. He said, "What about this?" We said, "I don't care. You make what you want to make." And so he and Heloise de Fréjus made these Burgundian outfits. He lined them all with fur, and Christian had this not ridiculous, but like it looked so much like the example piece. It was ridiculous. It looks so cool, and we've had like zero chance to wear it. But man, I just love it.
Well, there will be lots of time in the future. And then what happened here?
The puppy. I wanted a puppy my whole life, and we didn't have time. My parents didn't want them. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a good place. And I'd just been laid off from work here. So I had a lot of time. I got a really good package. So I had a long time to just be at home. And Christian knew that I've always wanted a puppy. So he, look at him, such a potato. So yeah, he utterly surprised me, fully surprised me in the middle of everybody. And I just cried. I don't cry in public. And boy, I just let loose. I was so shocked. Apparently Karen was worried I was going to fall over because I went white when they brought the puppy out.
And oh my God, the cuteness.
It's the only thing that got him through that first year, I'll tell you. That dog was a turd. He has chilled out now, but he was not an easy dog. Yeah. But I just love him so much.
And you can tell that you're his person. He's just, that's super cool.
A lot of art had to get put on hold when I was working with that dog.
So this past 12th night, it's the last event I went to. This happened.
Yeah, that was a day. That was a day, I'll tell you. Apparently a few people approached Christian and asked him not to win, which is anathema to him while fighting that day. They were like, man, she's so close, and just for her, you got to not win. And he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do that. So he fought with everything he had and won. And I knew, you kind of know as Crown, like I'd sat Laurels councils and all of the councils as princess and then as queen twice before. So you know when a candidate is kind of close, and I know what people say and I know how they act around you and I know the kind of questions they ask. But I knew that it wasn't going to happen while I was sitting on a throne. And I was okay with that because becoming a Laurel was never really a goal for me. What I really wanted was to do stuff that was cool enough to be recognized as a Laurel, like to really know that I was doing stuff that was pretty neat. But it wasn't, I was just doing the stuff because I wanted to do the stuff. And I was totally fine. I was like, okay, we won again. You know, perhaps in another year or so, that's fine. And so we walked up to be crown prince and princess there, and they were like, wait. I was like, pardon? And then they Skyped in Inga, and it was all very overwhelming. So we won crown for the third time, and I got put on vigil all in the same day. Yeah. You can see the lack of understanding in my face.
Yeah.
What?
And I mean, you're already, I've been to finals, but I've never, we've never won. And your head is already in such a crazy space from all of the stress of the day. And I imagine that must have just been, I would have left my body.
Yeah.
I don't think I would remember anything that happened.
I really don't remember much at that point. Yeah.
Crazy. So they put you on vigil and elevated you to crown princess at the same time. And then at 12th night?
This one was collegium.
Collegium. Okay.
Collegium, yeah. Yeah. So I had a couple of months to plan. And honestly, I let it all go. I said, I had a couple of conversations with Inga about it and just said, whatever you think. I said, my vision for a vigil was something that shows people you can have something very meaningful without dropping thousands of dollars on it. This is not my wedding. This is not the most important day of my life. And I've seen some pretty incredible vigils, which is, if that's what people want, their vision has come true because it's been really incredible. But I also wanted to, I don't want everybody to think that you you have to have thousands of dollars to be put on vigil. So I said, I want something that's approachable. People can come. If somebody wants to make cool food for it, that's awesome. If we want to pick up some stuff from Costco, that's also awesome. Whatever. I'd like a quiet room for discussions. Other than that, I'm good with whatever you want to do. And we ended up with some of the coolest food, and Mr. Stisa provided all of the decorations for inside the room, and they did it all up so well, and it was so beautiful on such a short period of time. It was super meaningful. We got shut down a little early because it got a little rowdy, which is a great sign. And one of the period foods was a fish that was very unpopular with the neighbors, but it was really wonderful, and I really loved it.
Is that sort of like don't use the work microwave to cook fish with?
But worse, I think it was pickled. It was delicious, but you could smell it a couple of hallways down. It was mighty.
Awesome.
And so obviously as Crown Princess, I had no time to make clothes. I really haven't made clothes in a really long time. The people around me have been really fantastic. So Inga put together a support group of a bajillion people from all over the place to put together the outfits. One of my favorite outfits, which I'm wearing now. Reagan Leaf was involved, Candace Asa was involved, Drifa and Inga and Disa. There was all kinds of people put together this incredible whole outfit for me. And the generosity. Otar was involved. I'm sure I'm missing some people too. Yeah, it was just such an incredible gift that they gave. Because I said, maybe a new apron dress. Like, I have a lot of clothes.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you're getting a whole new outfit.
Okay. Because this is, I mean, you spent a lot of time kind of being on stage, but this is your recognition for your work. And that's kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that people made it special. One of the things I love about this outfit is that the straps for your apron dress are white, and so you don't see them.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's just kind of floating there. I love that.
The ceremony was wonderful too. Inga took the ceremony that Sir Rifkin had for her knighthood. And somebody, I think, believed she also altered it for her own laureling, and then had it altered again for mine. So it's kind of like a family sort of ceremony.
Super cool.
Oh, and the laurel medallion, which I had for exactly one event before I lost it.
No.
No. The split ring, she warned me, she said, it's no good. Replace it ASAP. And I was like, sure. And the next event I wore that at, I lost.
Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it'll make its way back to you.
Possibly. She said she's going to make me a new one, which I said was absolutely ridiculous, and she didn't need to. There she is.
So proud of you.
Yeah, I love her so much. Oh, and then I surprised her. Back when they won, Inga and Arnsbjorn won Crown in Abacal, Arnsbjorn approached me and said, hey, Inga is going to be the first Duchess in Abacal, and I would like you to make her scroll. And I said, absolutely. And then Inga approached me and was like, hey, so I would really like if you could make Arnsbjorn scroll. And I was like, sure, no problem. And then we can get into what went into it, but those pieces together are my magnum opus, and they took way longer than I expected. But I decided for my laureling ceremony, I would surprise her with a gift of those scrolls. So this is her after we presented those scrolls, and she's all.
She does the best cry faces.
She sure does. She sure does.
And there you are, newly minted.
Newly minted.
I love your little fillet with the laurel leaves on it. That's just beautiful.
This was such a wonderful gift. this was made for Inga by, gosh, I'm awful at pronouncing her name. Kata?
Kata?
Yeah, Kata.
Okay.
And it's all hand dyed with indigo and weld, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brocaded. There's a period brocaded pattern woven in. And these are hand pounded, like hand hammered silver leaves for the laurel. And so Inga gave that to me as my circlet, which was incredible.
It's so fine and dainty. It looks
Mm-hmm.
good on you. There she is, super happy.
Cuddles.
And there's Otar and Helidora,
Mm-hmm.
ever supportive.
There it is. There they are.
So I didn't pull all of your process pics on these, but I pulled a lot. So just let me know when to stop or go forward or back or whatever.
I can explain here.
Okay.
On this picture. So what I wanted to do was I wanted 2 separate scrolls for her duchy and his county, but I wanted them to be paired, like matched. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, if I'm going to do a scroll for a Norse persona, and it really started with hers because he asked me first. So I did a lot of research, and there's not a huge amount of written manuscripts from the Norse, particularly the Icelandics. And the stuff from their time period is not particularly fancy. And I hemmed and hawed for a really long time because I wanted something that was plausible-ish and vaguely appropriate, but not, I didn't want to forego some beauty for the realistic, because it was also a gift for them. So what I settled on was the Lindisfarne Gospels, because the pillaging of Lindisfarne is contemporary-ish to their personas. So what I decided is I was going to take the Lindisfarne Gospels and take some images and then alter them slightly so that they match what I want to do for their scrolls. But also, so the piece on the left is an incipit page. It's based on an incipit page. And if you pulled that page out of the book, inside or on the outside of the folio is her writing. On the other side of those pages is the text you would find if you ripped that page out of the book. So it's actually, I've got the bits of the Bible that are on the back side of that written on the back of it as well. And then same for his, the back of the carpet page, I found the right one. And then as if you ripped it out of the quire, those are the pieces. So I wanted something that was like they had ripped it out and pillaged it as a gift to a fellow Viking.
Wow.
So that was my compromise, was to something kind of contemporary. And man, I had to learn everything for this. I did not trace a single thing on here. I figured out what pigments they used in the ones, and I made them. I figured out how to do the knotwork. I am not good at knotwork, but I learned a bunch of different techniques and I put it in. And these are to scale. I left out some of the details because I can only do so much. But these are to scale, and these are from, like, the animals are at the right size, the right dimensions and everything. I did all of the math. I figured out the geometry they did for that.
Wow.
I went deep into the nerd, deep into it. And it was glorious. It was glorious. I struggled a bit with the knotwork on his carpet page. There was something funny about it, and I tried, and I put it away. I put it in the shame pile for a little while, and I ended up just finishing it because I couldn't. Yeah, this whole bit inside this T, it was ages and ages and ages, and finally I just made it work.
It's one of those things you have to just do it and know that there might be flaws, but be good with it.
Yep.
It's just so much work. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I love both of them so much. I've known Arnsbjorn for longer than I've known most people in the SCA, actually. And he's always been such a wonderful friend. And when they got together, I couldn't have been happier my whole life. And so two of my very favoriteest people got some of the art that I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into. Yeah, I taped all the inspirations on the wall. So I had the type of calligraphy right there in my face for months. It was up there for years. My whole setup there. You can see where I kind of downloaded the Bodleian version and zoomed right in and copied and copied and copied. I didn't use period tools on this one because it was so small. I didn't think I could make the tools accurate enough to do it. But
I love this photo because it's such an insight into your process and your workspace. And it's so much more organized than my workspaces ever are.
I realized a while ago that I have an attention deficit disorder. And if things are not tidy in the place where I'm working, I can't focus on my work. So it's a necessity. If I can't work if there's a disaster. I make a disaster every time. Like I've got stuff everywhere there, but if stuff doesn't have a place to get put away again, I can't focus on my work. It took me a while to sort that out.
Yeah, I think I'm still sorting that out. And then I don't know why this got me. Oh, I know why. We talked about this. So here you are taking fealty from the Laurels.
I love this picture so much. Kalja was like, I want to lay my weaving sword on you. And I was like, heck yeah, that's awesome.
So for those that don't know Kalja, she is married to a knight and she is a laurel and a pelican. And she commissioned she's a weaver and she commissioned what's the name of the tool? Anyway, she calls it her weaving sword, and it's the tool that pushes down the weaving as you're weaving. And I know the term and it's gone out of my head.
Yeah.
And because we do that collar of swords for the knights, she thought it would be really cool to use that to swear fealty for, and she got it commissioned especially for that. So super cool.
This was a fairly early one. This one was predominantly done in gouache. This is one of the only ones I did predominantly in gouache. This was a pelican scroll for Sir Tristan and Sigurd. And this was one of the early ones where I did most of the art, but not all of it. Jadwiga out of Thornwood did some of the bits and pieces on it based on some modern role-playing games and his characters and so forth.
Oh, cool.
But I kind of put it into that style. And this was a pretty good one. I was pretty happy with this one. It was a lot of fun to do. It was hard too.
It's beautiful. I love it when things are personalized like that, where they put modern elements in to make it really personalized.
I really like to do that. Take something that's like a period one, but just put a couple of little nods into the person. It really personalizes it. Oh, this was a lot of fun. This was for Gara, I believe. No, this is for Morgan and Olivia. For this 12th night, actually. This one was all done in period materials, which was lovely because those reds are poisonous. Anything really bright in the period manuscripts is poisonous. So I have to be real careful when I use it. I like doing it. Look how little it was.
Wow. It's so beautiful and detailed.
That's one of those ridiculous trying to get it done before 12th night. Even in a virtual society, I was still doing that, still being dumb. But I really wanted to. They were wonderful to reign with, and they've continued to help us after the reign. And yeah, the giraffe. This is actually at Ian and Gwyneth's house, and I was working on fitted sleeves, and I'd finally figured it out, and I had this beautiful wool for a tunic for Christian, and I just had gotten up in the morning, and I was just finishing the seam, and then I laid it out, and I was like, well, that's a thing. And I had more coffee, and then I redid it. Yeah.
And we've all done this. There are garments that I've sewn the arms on wrong multiple times. It's so frustrating.
More science. I was working with, this one would have been Osage and Madder, and then I guess probably indigo.
I love all the colors.
Yeah, I had a bunch of different types of fabric, and I wanted to see what it looked like. One of them said it was linen, and it was very much not linen. It was definitely a polyester blend, which I discovered after dyeing it.
I think Joann's in particular does that a lot.
I think it might have been a Value Village find. This was wonderful. This was a court barony for James and Margaret up here in Lionsgate. It stepped down. Ian and Gwyneth had asked us to make that. And I worked on it together with Jadwiga. This was before I started doing any real art. So she drew it and then sent it to me, and I traced it on and then painted it. But this is an early one with all period materials, all on parchment, and I started to really get into it here.
It's just beautiful.
And then dyeing, I went to Maiwa and came back with much more than I had planned to.
Whoops.
Oh, this one was so much fun and came out so much better than I expected. This is a trompe l'oeil piece for my friend Jadwiga, who has always aspired to being worthy of being awarded a carp. That's her pinnacle. She loves persona, and everything she does is fantastic in her persona. And Award Mary Grace awarded her a carp, and so they asked me to do the scroll, and I did it. It's all based on a Polish thing from her time period, and I fit in 3 of her 4 cats. Yeah. That's the little guy with the small tail. That's Pitts Pitts. He's a royal star. He's such a wonderful cat. And then there's Kaylee. Yeah, that one came out really good. It was also all period poisonous pigments.
Oh, I thought there was another picture of it. Sorry. It's just so beautiful. All of the detail in it.
I believe that was the first time I worked with white lead, and man, it's a wonderful pigment to work with. As long as you're careful, it's wonderful. I did me some tablet weaving. I have trouble focusing, so if you look at that, you can see all of the mistakes. I'm not sure I did one proper return the whole way. But I decided not to go easy. I decided to just jump in and try a nice Hallstatt pattern. So
just do it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, from a distance, it works really well. And then socks. I like my socks. I have a lot of problem following patterns and following instructions. So I've probably made 7 different socks, and not one of them is the same. I keep finding single socks all over the place, and none of them match each other. So you can see this one totally doesn't match each other.
When I do my nail binding, I don't follow patterns at all because I'm the same. It's why I don't knit.
Yeah.
I'm just never going to be able to follow a pattern. And I love nail binding because you can just kind of increase and decrease and try it on and see if it fits. Super cool.
Ooh, and then some dyeing. Yeah, I got a really good color out of that madder, but I burnt it. I overcooked it, and you can't see it in that picture, but I burnt some of it. It was really sad.
I think we already saw this one. There we go.
There's some lichen. Before I knew which ones I should do, I just decided to pick a bunch. And before I learned about my conservation techniques as well, I just picked a bunch of lichen from somewhere and put it in. And that was after a few days. It came out with a really bright color. They all kind of ended up dyeing a kind of a muddy mustard color, but ooh, Avernia prunastri. This is one of the purples. I got really into purple for a little bit because there's a lot of really period purples you can get, and I wanted to do a pigment out of the purple, but I really struggled to get the color out of it. This one has to be very pure, otherwise you get a kind of a muddy pink color.
Mm. Ah, sorry. There, stop. Okay.
Oh, this one was so much fun. This was my second piece on parchment. Most of this is pigment. Some of it is wash. This was a havoc, which is the Thierry Fighting Award for contributions to the fighting community. And we were able to award it to Paul of Bellatrix. We felt pretty chuffed that we were able to award him because he moved into Thierry, and he was doing a lot of teaching and holding a lot of practices. So I found this neat little scroll of these guys beating the bejeepers out of each other. I thought that was pretty fun.
And he's part of the foundation of fighting in the SCA too. So
he's also just wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool that you were able to do that for him. I love these.
This was also a really, really cool project. Saverick, in his first reign, he approached me and he said, so my squire was made a pelican and he didn't get a scroll. And I've got this really cool ring, this really cool signet ring, and he was given a really cool signet ring for Christmas. So what would you think about doing one of those ones where we could seal it in court? And I was like, that sounds like a hoot. So I went and I believe Christian wrote the words for this one. And that's a lot of words, which you have to write twice. And I actually dyed the yarn and learned how to finger loop braid so I could loop it up like that so we could actually seal right on it. And we did it in court, and that was, we cut it and sealed in court, and that was just such a fun thing to be a part of.
It's great theater.
Yeah, well, and so cool, right down deep into my nerdity, right? That was a lot of calligraphy though, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot.
This is wonderful. I'm glad you had this one here. This was actually the first piece I ever did on parchment. This was all painted in gouache before I really got into my pigments. But this is an award of arms for Georg, der Rabenhammern von Saarbrücken. So Georg is really the reason I'm in the SCA.
Uh-huh.
And he was the friend of Christian's older cousin who introduced him to the SCA. He ended up doing SCA stuff and got hooked up with the Kendalls, particularly Amanda. And he didn't participate on the whole a lot, but he would show up and just be super useful, like a right-hand man to the Kendalls for ages and ages. And even after he moved to Tokyo, he would still come back every once in a while and come to an event, show up and just be helpful. And because of him, I got to meet Melissa and then Amanda and ended up sticking around in the SCA. So Christian has done his contributions and I have done my contributions, and they all come back to this guy. So we felt really lucky as Prince and Princess to be able to give him an award of arms. And of course we put on it the flower from Amanda and the fret and the Lion's Gate heraldry, just to like really bring it in for him. So that was a lot of fun.
Super sweet.
He's making pierogies there. He always says that pierogies are nutritious and delicious, and they also make a good house pet. So I found a thing. Oh, and this was the funnest. I don't know why I put it on an onion, but this was so much fun to make. So much fun. There was a little kind of baby shower for Ian and Gwyneth's daughter. Their second daughter, I think, maybe, when they were king and queen. And because, of course, some people are able to reign as they are pregnant, which is mind-blowing to me. And this was the year of the frilled veils with Mistress Christiana. And so I thought, I am going to do something really adorable. And so I made a little cap out of flannel, and it kind of snapped. And then this snapped onto it, and I put all these little pearl beads into it so that she could also have a frilly veil. That was just so much fun.
So cute.
Flannel is not ideal to work in.
No.
Oh man, I've been so lucky to work on so many super cool projects. This was a mighty project, and it took a lot of time. I ended up actually taking a week off work to make this one happen. Olin and Kiara were Prince and Princess of Tiri when Cold Keep, they moved the borders of Cold Keep back into Tiri out of Abacal. And there was a lot of heightened feelings both ways up there about a lot of things. And they wanted a scroll to welcome them back into the principality, to say, you know what, we love you and welcome back. And I'd sent the words off to their Highnesses Tiri, and I also sent them off to their Highnesses Abacal. This is before they were a kingdom, just to get their okay, because they were all going to sign it. And they sent back words, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm making 2 scrolls. So I did them both, and they're both themed based on the principality. So Abacal has their heart and their griffin and the red and gold, and then Tiri has the raven and the blue and silver. And I went right into the not Lindisfarne, I went into the Laurels Psalter, and I just started taking people and doing stuff. And there's a lovely little guy at the bottom left there. He's spreading seed, and his dog is chasing off the crows that are trying to steal the seed that he's spreading. There was just so many little details in this one, and it was so much fun to do. But man, it's a full sheet of cold press paper, and that was a lot of work. Yeah, but it's so worth it. So worth it.
And what an incredible project to work.
Yeah.
There's more lichen. Sorry, these aren't in good order.
Well, that's all right. That's before they got their color. Oh, some up closes in there. You got the griffin and all these little bizarre grotesques that they've got, these dudes with tails, and I think there's a monkey on there somewhere. That was so much fun.
A weird tentacle.
Yeah.
Wow. That's super cool.
Ooh, this stinky job. I've got a propensity for, I could do that hasn't worked very well for my townhouse living. But I decided that how hard could it be to make parchment? So I participated in a class where we learned how to ethically slaughter some animals. So there was chickens and goats. And I ended up skinning this entire goat. Like I prepped this entire goat. And so I got to take just a little, I was like, hey, can I take this skin off the legs? I just want to try something. And so I got these fresh skins that I processed into little bits of parchment. They came out a little bit more like rawhide because leg skin is not very good for making parchment out of. You really want the belly and the back.
Right.
But I did it. Again, I didn't do it very well. I did it with like stretched out with some dental floss, but I did it, and man, it stunk.
Well, just to do something like that and really understand the process that goes into making your work and making the tools for your work is pretty awesome. So cool.
Oh yeah, here he is spreading his seed, and the birds flying off and dropping some.
So cool.
I didn't invent these two. These were straight out of the manuscript. Only up closes of the grotesques out of that one. That one, I think that was the St. Albans Psalter.
I love these little guys, these little bitey guys.
Yeah.
And dying again. I'm sorry.
More science. This was actually a bunch of things I was doing here. So obviously I did some dyeing, and I dyed with lac. Lac, if you haven't worked with it very much, it's actually it's a resin that they split lacquer and lac out of, and lac is a very period color. You can get quite a good purplish out of it, but it doesn't look period at all, but it's super period. So I had dyed with it, and then I tried to make an ink out of it. That's what's in the syrup bottle. I made the pigment out of it, which is quite an explosive science, because you mix a calcium carbonate into an alum, which makes a lot of science all over the place. Please do it in a stainless steel sink if you try it. And then I was trying to dye that chalk in that little vial there with the lichen, to try and make a lichen lake, because I wanted a different purple, which was not successful at all. In fact, my ink didn't work very well either, but the pigment, I made so much that I probably have a lifetime supply of it. And you can actually see it in those flowers there. So not the red in the background, but the purplish. Yeah.
So cool.
It's a very distinct color once you see it. This one was so much fun. I just made this as a gift for my friend, His Excellency William, who was Baron of Lionsgate at the time. And I just love this miniature of this monk sneaking a bunch of beer out of the back of it. And it's actually a Catholic blessing on beer makers. So I just made it for him as a gift because it was hilarious.
Super cool. The diapering on this is just beautiful.
Oh, the gesso project. This was one in a string of a lot of failures. I tried to make this one set of scrolls for Thorwolf and Wolfwin, and almost everything I tried along the whole way failed over and over and over. So I was trying to make gesso to gild on, because I thought, how hard could that be?
Apparently it's hard.
Yeah, it is not simple. And this is their piece. I did a triptych sort of. So I did one scroll for him, one scroll for her, and then another one in the middle, a picture of the both of them. And here I was trying to learn about underpainting. So in the medieval, they didn't really mix different colors together. They kind of did layers of color underneath and then layers of color over top. And you can see here how poorly I draw. But I was trying to practice to get those colors. Here's my gesso drying. One of the many times I tried it out on some tinfoil.
And do you make little sections because you just use one little like dot at a time?
Yeah.
That's super
yeah.
Cool.
You rehydrate little bits at a time when it works, which this did not. There's the triptych. Yeah. So based on a Byzantine or a Cyrillic scroll, I didn't use a fake hand. I poorly transliterated the text into Cyrillic and then did it. I find if you translate it into the native language, the look you get in the words comes out better.
Yeah.
Like it looks more authentic because you've taken the right words. But man, I'm sure if anyone could read Cyrillic, it'd be gobbledygook. And then
but you tried.
Yep. And I always give them the words as well. Oh, here's step one of the failure for the gesso. I made so gesso, one of the ingredients in gesso is hide glue. And I thought, well, I've got a lot of parchment scraps. So I'm going to make my own hide glue. How hard can it be? So the first time I did it, I set the parchment to boil, which smells great if you've ever done it. And then I went downstairs into the basement and forgot about it, and it boiled dry. And my poor cat was panicking, so the house was filled with skin smoke, which was wonderful. And I got in trouble for doing science in the house again. So I redid it again, and then it makes quite a nice gel. So I cut it up and I laid it out to dry. And I really should have done it on parchment paper. I did it on the tin foil because that's what I had, and I don't time things properly. And I lost almost all of it to mold.
Aww.
So I ended up just buying hide glue
Yeah.
because it was just easier at that point.
I do that too, though. I'm like, I'm going to do the really complicated big thing and I'm going to make it go. And I can't afford to buy all the stuff, so I'm just going to make it happen. And yeah.
Mixed success. Yeah.
This is so beautiful.
This was quite a process. I don't think it's quite done here. I discovered as I was doing it. So again, they didn't mix a lot of the colors together. They layered them. And I found that with the lapis blue, I was having trouble getting it deep enough. It would just look thicker, more of the same color rather than deeper. And then I got really zoomed in on the inspiration piece, and I noticed a little bit of this purplish color underneath the blue. And what they had done was they had darkened it underneath with that same purple, which I made out of black. And it came out exactly right. And I was so chuffed after that, because I was having so much trouble getting that right blue, and it just didn't look right at all. And so when I did it, I was like, finally, something on this scroll is working, finally. Yeah, the gilding took ages. There I am mixing up instead of using lead, I used chalk. And instead of using Armenian bowl, which is a red clay, I used ochre, and they are not interchangeable. Doesn't work the same. Yeah, and there's me trying to gild on top of my own gesso made out of my concoction.
I love that you're doing it on like a practice piece here where you're working on draping.
Yeah, I did a lot of doodling on that one little piece. You can see off to the left, I've got a couple of dots that I'm waiting to gild on top of there. Yeah, I did a lot of practicing on this piece, which I don't normally do. But I really struggled with the gold. I really struggled with that. I think I ended up just using garlic juice. Oh, this one was so much fun to do. This is based off the Mira calligraphy, which is the illuminations. I think it's the illuminations were done after period, but the calligraphy was done in period, and the work is ridiculous. Every page has a different type of calligraphy, and it's super tiny. Alicia Dubois actually did a really good version of one of the pages for Kingdom Arts and Sciences a couple of years ago. But this was a lot of fun to do. Once again, this was you're being ridiculous before 12th night. And,
there's a theme here.
Mm-hmm. But I just had to do it. This was for Reinach of Argyll, and she's just one of my favoriteest people. So I really wanted to make something new.
I love these botanical illustrations. They're just so beautiful, and you've done such a nice job with them.
Oh, I think this was also another ridiculous 12th night one.
Let's see I think there's another picture of it. Oh, well. Do you want me to go back? I'll go back. There we go.
Oh, this is a cipher. Yeah, also for 12th night.
For Ludwiga.
For Ludwiga. Yes, man. When you make something for Legends and Ontier, it's very harrowing.
And she's her scribble is legendary. Her textile work is, I mean, it's just like, she does metal work. She's just so amazing.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. I learned that hand, and I use it for a lot of things. It always looks pretty fancy. This was also not a bright idea.
It looks so cool.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun, but I did it. It was a Secret Santa, one of the Duchess D's Secret Santa, and I got Disa. So I decided I was going to make a Bertha wallet. I don't have any leather working skills or anything, and I was Crown, and also making scrolls. And I stayed up super late a couple of nights, and I figured out how to gild the gold, and so I made her a little Bertha wallet.
It's so cute.
Oh, and I just adore her. So. Oh, and this was also one that I did. This is apparently I've done a lot before 12 nights. But this is a righteous wrath for Gutenvin, who is the household of Brynoch of Argyll, who has one of the most ridiculous setups. It takes them ages to set up, but it's all super period, and it looks so awesome. It's just one of those camps that everyone aspires to in the SCA. She's got flapping banners and beds and places to sit. Oh, it's just wonderful. So I did a bunch of math on this one to make the calligraphy work out in the right spaces based on the right on the word widths to make it fit. And yeah, that was a heck of a piece, but I sure like it.
So it's like a useful object scroll. It's
it's a working bucket, so they can absolutely use it.
So cool. The one that was sideways.
No, this is different.
Oh, okay.
This one is a raven, which is the ultimate award in the ultimate recognition in Tiri. And this is for Warwick Drakkar. The words were written by His Highness at the time, Sethric, who, if you've ever met, is a hilarious dude. And the words for this are hilarious. But they didn't look right in English. So again, I mutilated it into Latin using Google Translate. Sorry to everyone listening, but this was a lot of fun to make, and it's such a beautiful series of scrolls to try and copy. You'd think spirals and doodly doos would be really easy, but I'm not good at just making it look good, you know.
Well, it looks pretty fantastic to me. I love that viney spiral thing. So beautiful.
Ooh, pigments. Here's some poison. This is we have cinnabar, I believe. It's either cinnabar or vermilion. I can never remember which one. And in period, the words were used interchangeably, which is really annoying. Verdigris, which is the bright aqua color. I made that one on a copper tube. You basically expose copper to vinegar and then try not to breathe it when you scrape it off. And then orpiment, which is a mercury base. That one's super poisonous. Even in period, they knew that one was poisonous. So I have a whole different set of tools that I use for that one. And I wear a respirator when I'm working with the powder, and I use gloves when I'm handling it.
Keep all the animals out.
But man, it's so rewarding because there's no natural pigment that looks like that. That's a heck of a yellow.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and there's the verdigris again. That's such a great, bright color.
And then we're back to Inga's stuff. I think that takes us full circle.
Back to the beginning.
Yay.
There's so many pieces I'd forgotten about there that I haven't thought about in some time.
Sometimes I feel like I'm doing an SCA This Is Your Life in these
Hey, if that's the sum of me, I'm proud of it. Those are some great people I got to recognize and got to be a part of their recognition.
Super cool. So we touched briefly on the fact that you got elevated just as you were stepping up. So you're pretty much a brand new Laurel, although it's a year and a half now. And we were talking before we went live. The only Laurel meetings that you've been in have been as royalty. You haven't had really a chance to sink into the role of being a Laurel.
Yeah, it's unusual because you're, as Crown, you sit in all of the peerage meetings, and you definitely, you know what goes on from that side. Like, I always think of it as you're being counseled by the council. So I've spent a lot of time in a lot of different meetings being counseled by the peers, but I've never given my counsel to the Crown as a peer. So it's been a long time, and I still haven't had a chance to see what it's like from that side. And I'm excited, and also I just want to make sure that I remember what the job is from that angle. You know what I mean? It's yeah, we'll see. I'm sure I'll stick my foot in it at some point, but
I think we all do. It's part of learning, right?
a lot of people are asking me, what's the best part about being a Laurel or this or that. I'm like, honestly, I don't know, because I haven't been just a Laurel.
Yeah.
I really feel that there's a difference when you sit in the council. I actually had to think about it a lot when I was an apprentice and sitting in the councils, about how I felt about sitting in there as Crown. And I actually got the piece of advice about being counseled versus offering counsel from Mr. Elfwin from back east. She gave me some really good counsel on that, and I really kind of took everything I am off of that, and I understand it better. But it's quite a challenge sitting in a meeting as a not peer and assigning or aspiring to be that type of peer and offering judgment, not judgment, but making decisions. It's a strange place to be. In some ways, I had a hand up in my journey, because I know what the Crown is looking for. At very least, this Crown and every Crown that's come before and after me. So I had that advantage, and I said at one point to Christian, I said, I cheated a little bit because I know what everyone's looking for. And he said, the counterpoint to that is that while you did know that, you were also on the highest pedestal to be able to knock yourself off. So you get the insight, but you're also in a very visible position to screw up.
Yeah.
He said, think about that. And I said, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I don't feel as much like I cheated my way in.
Well, and I don't think it's cheating so much as a unique opportunity to see a little bit behind the curtain, because I think one of our shortcomings as peerage orders is that there's so much mystery around what happens in the meetings, and there's so much mystery around what we talk about. I participated in Athenaeum over the weekend, and one of the one-on-ones that I talked to talked about some of the feedback that she'd gotten from Laurels, and it was kind of secondhand feedback, and the words that she used broke my heart a little bit, because they're words I've never heard used in council, and I think that a lot of times people make up what they think goes on in council.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not pretty. And that makes me sad in a lot of ways. It makes me sad as somebody who really works to make the council better and to make the impression that people have of the council better. And it makes me sad for candidates who carry this burden of being judged negatively in a way that we aren't really judging them. And so I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to counter that. But I'm trying.
Yeah,
And I think that the fact that you were able to actually see those discussions and know what's being said, maybe took a little bit of that level of angst out.
absolutely. Absolutely. I I never felt a need to push. I never felt a need to impress the unimpressible or whatever. So I don't have that self-imposed need to accomplish it that a lot of people do, which I totally get. A lot of people are very goal oriented. And the reason the world goes around is because we're all different. So I didn't really have a lot of that going in. Um, I definitely heard all of the rumors that everybody does about how Laurels are and what Laurels do. And I try to tell anyone that will listen, you know, all I hear, the vast, staggering majority is this person is doing this cool thing. Wow, that's super cool. I want to see them do this, and then I think they're there. Like that's the vast majority of positive discussion we have. Um, yeah, like it's such a positive group of people
Yeah,
who
it's so
say, hey, this person isn't there. What can we do to help?
yeah.
Like it's such a cooperative group of people working towards the goal of everyone who wants to joining. Um,
Yeah, it's so much more focused on fostering and growing people and not on cutting them down and penalizing them. And if there was one like message I could get across, part of the reason I'm going to wax a little bit because this is the last in it's been a year long, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I started this out sort of wanting to give people a little insight into who Laurels are and what the council is like, and to help them see us as human beings, uh, and as complex people and not as like big scary monsters. And I just totally lost my train of thought. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I really hope that people have gotten that from this, that if there was one thing I could tell people, we want to support you in your work. We want to support you on your path. We may not know the perfect way to do that, but we're going to try every angle we can to help you get there if that's what you want. And it's legit not to want it. That's fine.
totally.
We don't want to force feed anybody, but the goal is to grow our numbers and to teach people art and to foster a love for what we're doing.
Yeah, I've never met a group of people like the peers, at very least in Ontario, that are so focused on making everyone around them better. Like in my whole life, modernly or medievally, I've never met a group of people like the peers in Ontario. I have been moved to tears more times than I can say, and I'm not a teary person.
Period.
Um, just by the generosity of spirit of the peers in Ontario. I I came in ready to go to bat for people that I thought had been misjudged, and people said, yes, this person is having a problem, and this is what I'm doing to help them. This person is not there yet, and this is what I'm doing to help them. Like everywhere I turn, people are like, yeah, we know. We know this person struggles, and this is what we're doing to help them. Gosh, it's not what it can feel like from the outside.
Yeah.
It's such a supportive group.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how, again, I don't know how to fix that perception, except to maybe talk about it and talk about our process more.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I want to do after this series is done is work more on getting a Laurel presence, a presence for our council on our webpage, or maybe Lockock has a separate Laurels webpage that's linked to the Kingdom webpage that has pictures and bios of each of the Laurels, and it explains the council and their philosophies. It's really, really well done. And I would love to see us do something like that, because I think one of the things that new people do is they get on our website and they do as much research as they can and try to figure out what's going on. And the Laurels, well, none of the peerages have any kind of presence, and
Mhm.
that's unfortunate. So I would like to try to fix that.
It'd be a wonderful resource for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people too who I feel like there's a couple of pages out there where you can go and look for who does books from the Library of Alexandria, who specializes in this or who specializes in that, but it's not super easy to find. So
Yeah.
that'd be a great resource for people.
So anyway, that's what's been on my mind this year, is in this journey of interviewing folks, is just how can we be better? Mm-hmm. So we are at about an hour and a half. Time goes by really fast.
Sure does.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about tonight that we haven't covered?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I was going to bring up something about how I feel about how the council is perceived versus kind of the reality from what I've seen on the inside, but we've just covered that.
Yay!
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm super excited for you to continue your journey as a Laurel once you step down, and get that chance to experience that. And I'm always here if you need anything.
Yeah, we can do some nerding. Yes.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It's been a total privilege to talk to you. I don't think that we've ever actually talked in person. So thank you for this. Thank you for trusting me and for sharing your journey tonight.
The pleasure is all mine. You made it extremely easy. I felt very comfortable. And I wanted to thank you again for doing these videos. They're a great resource for everybody during these times. And I know it's an awful lot of work. I know how many times you touched base with me, and I can just imagine, actually, I can't imagine how many messages you've got going on day in, day out from all of the different shows that you've been producing, but also supporting. And it's a lot of work. So thank you.
It has been a pleasure, and I'm ready for a little bit of a break. I'm not going to lie. So that brings me to tomorrow. My sister and I are doing not our last ever sisters interview, but we are doing the last one before we take a little bit of a break. And we're interviewing Sir Kelwin from Artemisia. And she was knighted not just before COVID, but kind of before COVID. And she is the first female knighted in the Kingdom of Artemisia, but Leah was a knight of Artemisia, but she was knighted when they were still a part of Adenveld. So we kind of have to make that difference. Anyway,
a little asterisk.
Yeah. She and my sister are very close. Well, our whole family is close with her. So that's going to be a really nice interview to end things off with. And I also want to mention that Her Excellency Genevieve is going to be doing Voices of Color. It's going to kind of step into this time slot. And I think it's starting next week. I'm going to be doing a little behind the scenes work for them just to help them get launched. So I'm taking a break, but maybe not really. But I'm not going to be on camera anymore. And I would like to not be on stage for a while. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so I'm rambling. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thanks everyone for watching and sticking with us through this year. It's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you in person. All right, I'm going to stop the live stream. Good night, everybody.